Like transformation gets boring after a while because you're constantly seeking for things. But when you're liberated, you can just be, like you said, you can be present and when you're present, you can actually love someone. That's when you can actually love someone or love a process or love a mission or love a vision, however you see fit. But yeah, I love exactly what you said because once you have that notion, everything's working out for me, regardless of what's happening, you're going to find that immediately in your feedback from the environment.
And then you can love what you do. And if you don't, what you do love will come your way because
True.
that just has to happen. That's just
Yeah. It's the
nature.
nature of yeah, exactly. You said it perfectly. And that see, and we're synced up. That it's perfect when you start dialing in because you realize that once you have that and you set that, it has to fundamentally happen. That is the nature of things. That's the order of things. Like it has to fundamentally happen. That's what I love about studying natural law.
Let's learn how our next guest gets up, dress up, and show up on purpose. Enjoy the episode. Hello, morning enthusiasts. Welcome to the Best Morning Routine Ever podcast. I am your host, Dr. Lunid, and today I am super excited for this young man we have on the show today, Kyle Anthony Trautman. He is a neuroscience-based transformation expert who helps purpose-driven professionals, coaches, and entrepreneurs overcome burnout and identity confusion. And he does this through energy literacy and cognitive recalibration. Now, this is big because I'm all about reprogramming the subconscious mind and getting in there and doing the deep work because that's where the real change, transformation happen. And he himself have survived over 44 doses 44 overdose and recovering from a near fatal brain injury. So this man knows what he's talking about. He turned trauma into purpose, building a multi six-figure practice and helping thousands and thousands of people. And so I'm really excited to have him on here. So with no further ado, Kyle, welcome to the show.
Dr. Lunid, thank you so much. I'm super excited to be here.
It's my absolute pleasure. We hear about a little bit about where you're coming from with the drug overdose, the brain injury. We do love a hero's journey, and I feel like you have a good one. So go ahead and dive in and telling us what got you started into this transformative path.
I mean, that's yeah, what a loaded question right off the bat. I think the biggest thing that came from starting just this journey was just seeing the health patterns within my family.
Mhm.
And then obviously like my own issue with substance abuse disorder. The 44 overdoses is just like one like slice of the pie, even though that sounds super, super harrowing. There's so much layering to that. And then obviously at the height of my career, I was diagnosed during a massage with DVT. I got a pinched nerve that actually blocked off one of my arteries in my subclavian artery, and which promoted the near fatal brain injury that you were alluding to. So that process, especially just even in the last couple years, really heightened my desire to want to make sure that my one-to-one work was essentially available for everybody in a group setting and then also in a passive setting. So the myriad of different health complications that has just happened in my lineage just really spearheaded my desire to want to see health from beyond a root cause, right? We always talk about root cause, or you hear that often, but what is actually beyond that? What is actually below the roots? And it's a layering of generational things, and obviously it started with my family, and then I was very fortunate. Sounds weird to say that. Very fortunate to go through the substance abuse disorder and the near severance of my medial prefrontal cortex to actually be where I'm at right now, to have a deeper sense of gratitude for life and a deeper appreciation just for life in general. So yeah, that was the original aspect of where everything started was with my family.
Yeah. So there's family lineage or well, they like we hear a lot. The buzzword is family, just curses,
Sure.
just that things are passed down through the bloodline. Even like
Hmm.
poverty mindset is passed down through the bloodline. A survival
Hmm.
mindset, all that does pass through. And for you, you went in and tackled all that. You went in and started ripping things off the root, out of the root,
100%.
essentially. Is that it?
Yeah, the beautiful part about what you're talking about too is the passing of that aspect, or you can call it generational trauma, or you can call it generational cycles. It's really about can you stop? Can you be observant and be like, hey, I'm the last in my immediate family, and I was like, okay, if I look back and started to see a pattern that going on within my family, am I going to take the initiative to stop it? And it's not an easy approach because once you make that initial intention, everything gets disrupted and life can get a pretty chaotic, especially when you set an intention to guide, your family in a different direction. But that was it. It was just bit by bit, and over time, I was very fortunate to get to a heightened place in my career, and then just had some mishaps and was be able to reevaluate even on a deeper level. And I'm very thankful to be in that place right now based off of those circumstances.
Yeah, because it's not easy work. It is not easy
No, it is
going
not.
back to break some of these generational curses that are set in place, and to be brave enough to say, it ends with me. It stops here.
Mhm.
It stops with us because now we're looking at the bloodline ahead, right? Because then you see
Yes.
change.
Hmm.
Go ahead.
Exactly. Exactly. No, I mean, I couldn't agree more. It's really what I've loved about working with people on a consistent basis is it's such a family-oriented practice where you're starting to see so many different unique personalities and characters, but they're all centered around family. It's one of the biggest things that is an advocation for us, and it's so imperative, especially just the moms that we work with. It's not like the ideal client archetype, as they say in the marketing space that we work with, but we do work with a lot of moms, and you can see that that is a very leading cause for why they want to do this work is because they don't want to pass it on to their babies. Because as you know, as being a mom going through that process and starting to see like that child is looking at every single thing that you're doing. Every single thing, and it's just mirroring you. So it is really about standing on conviction when you do that, and it is the challenging work about being able to go backwards and understand that those patterns are just conditioned lies, right? That's really what they are. Those beliefs that are begetting your behaviors are just conditioned lies from your environment and the influences around you. And we do a really good job of like making sure you understand exactly how to tackle that in a very efficient fashion.
Yeah, and those patterns were designed initially, they were survival techniques or
Mm,
modalities. They were designed to keep you safe, and that's how the brain works, right? That's how habits are work.
right.
We would be overwhelmed if we try to remember everything.
Mm,
So muscle memory kicks in. The brain creates formation. Neurons are connected and says, "This is how you do this process. This is how you drive," and
mm,
keep learning how to drive forever. This is how you ride a bike. You never forget it. And that neuron is that firing is made, that connection is made so that you don't have to relearn it every time.
I love what you're saying here because this is the reason why our practice and our facilitation has a 97% success rate for people who come in is because you're talking about heavy in learning and that notion of the neuron firing as the neuron fires together, it wires together. And what we do is we take a top down and bottom up approach with holonomic brain theory to pair with that. So it's a 1-2 punch. So you have the polarity of learning. So it's actually expediting the learning process and the release of the trauma from the nervous system. So I love what you were saying because that alluded to exactly what I was super passionate about discovering this notion is how do we add on to Hebbian learning? How do we because of what Carl Jung likes to call those neurons complexes, just those neural networks. How do we really accentuate those so you're learning faster, which can be a little more uncomfortable at first because obviously you're releasing a lot more faster. But how can you make this such a more efficient ride than having to dredge out what trauma work is or what inner work is or any type of subconscious work. So I love what you said about that because we wanted to pair with Hebbian learning to make it even more of an efficient process for people to actually get their healing.
So it sticks, it sounds like.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh
So
yeah.
that you are not the same person who sat down when you initially started, when you got out of it. You're not. You don't remember. You sometimes you won't even remember the old you.
Sure.
Why? The things that used to trigger you can't connect. It's like it misfires. Like
Yeah,
because you're no longer available, that you're not that same individual that used to get triggered by such things. And
absolutely.
that's that power you're talking about. That's how high you call it high vibe holonomics, right?
Yeah. And what you're saying on that too is even beautiful because you may not remember who you are, but you're now remembering who you're supposed to be, which is even more beautiful, right? It's like remembering a future version of yourself so you can actually start to, and obviously that's the process of imagination and visualization kind of coming into to the forefront. But yeah, that's literally the most beautiful thing. And that's a little more mystical, a little bit more woo-woo on that side too. But remembering who you're supposed to be, how God made you, and that spirit within is really just why we do this work. It's really not to forget who you were on a traumatized standpoint or a person from your past, but really remembering who you're supposed to be and really cementing that into the forefront of your entire being.
So you embody it.
100%. Yeah. Beautiful word choice.
You become it. You become this higher self that it's a future self, but it's higher self that it only has your the good and your best self, your only what's good for you in mind. So
Wholeness. Yeah.
wholeness,
Wholeness.
wholeness. And does that help with people? Does it help others from feeling and being stuck? And removing that barrier of of like self-identity that we so eloquently, we do it so well that we try to find outside of us. We
Hmm.
try to get validation from other people, be it a church, be it our parents, which is what got us messed up to begin with.
Sure.
And
100%.
so let's talk about how what you do help people get unstuck, because then it sounds like it's all inward, right? It's already here.
Hmm.
People are remembering it. It didn't go anywhere. It was just muddied up.
Totally. What you're speaking on is the law of correspondence as within, so without in perfect context. But the beauty in our process is really taking the context because you can't derive anything without context, and that's going to come from the influences outside of yourself, right? That has come into your foundational years. So from 0 to 6, more so 0 to 9, you are super, super, super vulnerable to really anything that's outside of yourself. And as you start to process beta brainwaves going into, more of your adolescence, you start to figure out what your identity is, right? So those shapeful years are just being a prolonged timeline. And what we do is we look at the 4 levels of awareness. We go beyond the subconscious. You have the conscious, the subconscious, unconscious, and superconscious, and I just relate that to God. Is how do you tap in and align those? Because the stuckness is really just, and in stuckness, burnout to me are almost like simultaneously the same thing, or synonyms essentially, is that you are just out of alignment, right? It just means you're non-coherent specifically with what you're doing, what your purpose is, and also essentially how you're living just in general, like how you're behaving. And then the identity piece that we work on is just allowing those beliefs to be scrubbed and those filters to be scrubbed so the behavior changes. And then when the behavior changes, that's when you're actually going to start to see that permanent change. And what's beautiful about teaching what we call the forever framework is it gives you a systemized approach because this is forever work, right? If you come with us, our ultimate goal is you don't have to go find any more inner work, right? The outer work that you're passionate about, that's what we really want you to get to, right? If you come work with us, the accountability structure that we have built within the Holonomic Institute, which is more a group oriented specifically for people that are looking for that, that's our hope. And that's really what sets, I believe, us apart from most traditional subconscious work is because there's accountability consistently over time where people can be like, oh, I have a call on Monday. I have a call on Wednesday. I have a call on Friday. I can show up and I have different flavors of facilitators that can keep me in check to make sure that I'm just doing my inner work because as you do the inner work, your outer world is just going to be a representation of that. So very, very foundational aspects. And we just want to make sure that everybody is accounted for when they go through this process.
The fastest way to change your reality is to do the
Totally.
inner work. I think Bob Proctor says it, right? One of them, somebody said it first.
Sure.
As within it is outwardly. So you start changing start doing the inner work, which is not easy, by the way. We'll talk about why it's not easy in a little bit. You start doing the inner work, and then reality has to catch up.
Hmm.
You change your
Yep.
frequency. In reality, it's a little slower, and so it might take a while for people in your life to rearrange, for jobs to move or come, opportunities to land. I have actually experienced this myself, and
Hmm.
in that in between phase, it can get very frustrating.
Oh yeah.
Let's talk about that. The reality shifting, because you change,
Hmm.
everything around you has to change. Jim Rohn said it. If you change, then everything will change for you. Around you will change.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I'm a testament to that just based off the story. It's like you have two changes because once you stop abusing substances, like you have to have a new neurochemistry baseline. And once you have a new neurochemistry baseline, which can take a minimum, usually on average of 6 months just for things to try to come back online, then you actually have to change your thoughts. Trying to change your thoughts immediately after, stopping substances is like a whole different game. So what you're saying, I felt like I had to do it on steroids. I was just like, okay, as you stop and then shift, like the biggest, I think the biggest problem that most people face is that can they stop, right? Can they surrender the behavior that is just infecting them, essentially? Because once that is really curtailed, and once that behavior change, that's the definition of transformation. It's just behavior change, because your behaviors are really just coming from your identity, right? So the one thing that I've really appreciated about what you're talking about, just constantly talking about correspondence as within, so without, is that once you shift, it has to find, it's nature's law, like it's natural law. Everything around you fundamentally has to change because consciousness is fundamental. And if you change within, everything else has to shape because that is the mirrored principle. And this is where you really get into the fun order of things, where you get really into deeper conversations about what natural order is. And that's really how we should be living as human beings, in my humble opinion.
Natural order of things, and it does get fun. uh let's talk about how fun it is to rearrange your life, because then you have
Mm.
people that are filled with resistance, who know about this work, want to do the work, but somehow just cannot quite let go or take the leap, or can't take the jump. What do you say to individuals like that?
Uh, what an absolutely almost near perfect question, because that is the hardest part about change work in any aspects, is because as you see the lineage of transformation, essentially you have the intention, you want to change. I've seen this obviously in my own life, in my own story as being a former drug addict. You want to change so many times, and then you lapse, and then you lapse, and then you relapse, and then you're like, oh, I got to go through this shame cycle again. What I like to tell people is just understanding the order of the intention chain. And the intention chain just says once you put that intention, everything behind that decision is going to get disrupted. Like the world, God, nature is just going to slap you and be like, hey, I'm going to give you a test to see if you can sit in and buckle up.
Yeah.
And then that faith, that surrender component really allows you to have clarity, and that drives your purpose. And that's just those five things really start to open up what's possible. So what I tell people is like truly, truly the other side is so much worth the pain, because you got to go through the pain, because that's really just where your purpose is. For anybody that's struggling with their purpose because they're trying to change and they don't know, it's just to go within, right? And you fundamentally have to change to go on that other side. So the funness of it isn't really right up front, right? Because so many things are going to get chaotic, is because you have to lower that entropy. And that entropy is just that chaos that comes from wanting to change,
Yeah.
right? But learning, and this is why I suggest, and this is people don't have to work with me, just work with some professional that can hold down that charge while it gets shaky,
Yeah.
right? Because it's going to test you. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've quote unquote failed, right? Even though I don't believe in failure, I just believe in the lesson plan behind it. How many times I have gone up to that moment and just fallen apart, and then revert back to the old behavior. And then once it just clicked, just through repetition, because you just want it that deeply. I don't really believe in that notion of how bad do you want it. It's like, how deep do you want it? How
Yeah.
deep do you want to go with that? Like, how much do you want to meet your soul? Right? And this is where the fun conversation is because, and then this is where people crack. This is where people crack and they're just like, I'm finally willing to be seen,
Mm.
right? I'm finally willing to allow spirit to move through me rather than my own egoic contraptions that keep me stuck. And then once spirit starts talking to you, that's when it becomes fun. That's when the energy becomes enlivened and really you become just a magnetic person to any, or magnetic being to anything that you desire in life.
Yeah.
That's when it gets fun. So I just tell people to stick it out, have faith, and the more you surrender, and this is one of the biggest things that we have to teach clients and students is how to actually surrender.
Hmm.
Letting go is so challenging for people, and it sounds so easy,
Right.
right? Oh, just let it go and let
Not.
God, right? It sounds so easy, but we have to fundamentally teach the mechanics of how to do that, and that's super, super helpful for people. But I always tell people, stick it out. And I share my story immensely because it gives people not just the hope, it gives people that ladder. If this guy can get past that kind of story, I can do whatever I possibly can. And that's just the beautiful part of it.
Yeah, and then as you were talking, I thought about the habits, new habits, because you have to replace a habit. You can't drop a habit, as you know very well. Uh,
Uh-huh.
you can't. You have to replace it. You have to find a more effective habit, a better habit, to rewire the brain altogether. And so, yeah, it is hard because of that, because habits are already in place. And especially if after decades of it being
Yes.
there protecting you and serving you,
Right.
and so for you to be like, it no longer serve me, bye, it's not going to go anywhere, not just like that. And that's why this work is hard, and you can't do it alone. You can't do it
Amen.
without holonomics, and we can't do it without Kyle. You can't do it solo, because it will eat you up alive. That's why a lot of people haven't started, because
Yeah.
they tried and they dipped their toe in the water. Oh, it's too cold, I'm out of here. Well, it's
Yeah.
a lot easier to be safe and continue what's familiar. The brain wants to keep you at this
Mhm.
familiarity. And so it's hard to do yourself. You have to get the right people around you to help you
Yeah.
through it. But once you get through it, I want to share a story to how reality starts catching up. I buy a car, and then within 3 months it breaks down three times. It's just telling me, let go, release, because something nicer,
Right.
better is kind of it's on its way. But I had to surrender. I had to sit with that to understand what's happening and listen.
Mhm.
There's a lot of noise, and we it's hard to listen and tune in, because you are being there's downloads. If you're waking up between 3 and 5 in the morning, it's an opportunity. Like, the universe, God is trying to get to knocking at your door. Wake
Mhm.
up, I have stuff to tell you. So
Yeah.
that was one story where life started rearranging for me. People started leaving my life.
Yeah.
New people started coming in that are more fitting. Jobs just no longer attractive anymore. It's like, I can't do this anymore. I can't even watch the same shows anymore.
Right.
Reality starts bending around you once you get to that, once it clicks, once you get to that magnetic place you're talking about. And so I
Mhm.
want to turn it over to you, to share some insights. I mean, you've worked with thousands of people. I'm sure you've heard some stuff.
The greatest thing about what you're referring to is just the constant shift that happens, you know, just within the frequency that you're modulating and you're oscillating at. And a lot of people don't understand like the measurement of oscillation just tells you where you're at on that scale of vibration. And obviously the higher you are, right, the more calm you are, the more you can receive, right? And what I love about what you're talking about, that notion of surrender, that is the second phase of the flow cycle. And we teach flow for post-traumatic growth, which is just an emerging part of neuroscience that is really, really only 3 years old. It started coming out in 2022, and we're the first school that's dedicated to that. And what I've seen for people just literally, like I'm talking years upon years of just stuff that they have let go, and then the consolidation, the integration period where they're just like, I actually am starting to forgive myself because I didn't understand what was happening. And this is the crazy part, is our conscious mind is only 0.006% of our entire awareness, right? So we're a pin drop in the entirety of life, and we're operating from these emotions that are just coming from our past. And then we have to realize that those aren't even coming from us.
Mm.
Right. So when we get into that peaceful state of being able to just really, like you said, surrender, you're going to start to see peace really in everything.
Mm.
And when you start to see peace and you operate with just peace, like blessings just are bestowed upon you. And I've seen that happen with countless people that I've worked with that have gotten off drugs. Right, those are my favorite stories, just because they obviously hit a little bit closer to my heart. Because just what a vicious thing to experience for anybody going through addiction or substance abuse disorder. But the main thing is really just seeing people come back together and reconnect with their loved ones. That to me is just really, really everything. Obviously, when I work with entrepreneurs and business people, we're working on more income goals and stuff like that's a little bit different. But when you got the family side of things where people are like, I just want to reconnect to myself so I can have my soul speak rather than my programs, rather than the conditionings of the past. And when they really start to get that, like you said, that click, right, that shift becomes cemented, they get to start exploring more of themselves. They get to actually start to dabble in passions that they never even thought were possible. And then they start to have the novelty experience, which enriches the brain. You have to have the balance between the harmony between novelty and repetition. Because if you have one lopsided, your brain's going to start to essentially dysfunction itself. It's going to start to shut down. So for all the people that we've worked with, one of my favorite one of my favorite parts of this process is really just seeing somebody come in being so timid, so scared, so fearful. And when you just drop the line on them that only two fears are biological, everything else is conditioned, and you just see them go, their lights go off because they never even knew that. Like very simple information. We have
What are
two
those two
biological
fears?
fears.
What are they?
Those fears are the fear of loud noises, just for obviously our sonars to help within our nervous system, but then also of falling down. So our proprioceptive nervous system can help us just in case we can catch ourselves. Everything else is conditioned. So we've either seen it, heard it, smelt it, tasted it, felt it through our senses, and it has conditioned us over time. And once people can understand that, it could be overwhelming at first because they're like, wow, this is a lot of work. But I'm like, yes, but if we can get you fully involved, that's why holonomics. It's just holonomics, if this helps for your audience, just is Greek for the whole law.
Mm.
Right. So we got to take care of the whole law because anything in science that's repeatable is known as a law. So we have to take care of the whole law. So when we go in and we just teach them the essence of how to take care of the entirety of your dynamics, it's a lot less burdensome where people are like, oh my gosh, like I'm that much of a problem. I'm like, no, you're just conditioned just like everybody else, right? Now it's where do you really want to go with this? And those are my favorite stories when people just start dropping this fake armor that they've carried around just because they feel like they have to protect themselves.
Yeah, it's performance. A lot of us are walking around performing with
Yep.
mask on, and it is
Hmm.
conditioned, it is programmed. When you talked about the fears, I think of my soon-to-be 3-year-old. She doesn't have a fear of falling. She doesn't have a fear of sound because she screeched super loud. So those fears are actually all programmed and conditioned. Like even at that age, they don't fear falling. They will
Yeah.
climb on top of a ladder and look down and ready to jump. And so
Yeah.
it is ingrained. It is like learned later on
Sure.
in life and then added on to other fears. Other ones
Yeah.
are just added on. But yeah, there's a lot of learning and unlearning we have to do as adults.
Simultaneously too. Yeah, simultaneously. And that's the beautiful bridge grab because I could possibly agree with you too as not being a mom. Like I just go to the science and it's like this is what has been found, but it's like you as a mom, what is observed in nature is most likely correct. Usually most, I'm not going to lie, most science is usually corrupted. So sometimes when you go to these studies, they can allude to something that you personally could override just by your observation. And that's the reason why everything that is observed into nature is your truth in your own essence. So I do respect what you said, specifically with your kid being like, hey, I'm just a human. I'm just a human experiencing things and just jumping around.
And
Yeah.
there's no fears there either. It is learned later on in life. After falling
For
a
sure.
couple of times and then getting a boo-boo and owie, then it is like, okay,
Right.
I have limits.
Yeah,
I have
absolutely.
physical limits because they come in. I think kids come in with this supernatural instinct, intuition of just like, I am God, I can do
Yeah, yeah,
all
yeah.
things. And then we dim it down later on slowly.
Right.
And that's a parent's, that's my biggest fear is I don't want
Sure.
her to shrink in any way or dim that light or to have to remember, continue to remember that force that is within, because we do somehow snatch it away from them because of our own programming. That's
Yes.
how we change the bloodline going forward, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. And you're a perfect example of what I was alluding to earlier. The moms that come into this, they're saying exactly that. It's like because they want to see that purity continue. And it's a beautiful benevolent thing because in nature and just like as human beings, I'm not sure if that's actually possible, but what a striving point to be able
Mhm.
to, I'm going to provide a pure path for my child. Like it's beautiful.
Yeah, I heard a healed woman is a healed world.
Oh,
A
amen.
healed woman can
Amen.
heal the world.
Amen. Is a healed everything. Yeah. I mean, the women are the oracles of truth. So it's like, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So holonomics in Greek means law. So let's talk about some of the law. Law of intention, law of detachment, and law of
Mm,
attraction. Let's talk about
sure.
those. Is there a fourth one? I think there's three. But
Yeah. Well, there's seven main ones if you go to the Hermetic principle, and holonomics is Greek for the whole law. So it's making sure that you're taking care of the whole system. But yeah, it really depends on if you're going to the master universal laws, or you're going to the seven Hermetic laws. The biggest one for me is obviously the law of vibration, right? Is like what is truly keeping everything in motion, right? And the law of attraction is just a secondary aspect because as you vibrate, as you emanate, as you emit frequency, that is the electromagnetic component of what's going to come back to you. Your thoughts are electric, your feelings are magnetic. And this is the reason why Neville Goddard wrote the book, Feeling is Secret, right? And this is the reason why we got to teach. And I have to, a lot of the times, crack through a lot of the males that I work with because they're all like, oh, fuck your feelings, move through things. You know what I mean? Like it's really bad coding. It's like there are certain parts of life that you have to push through just because you are doing something for a specific role and you are providing for a mission. But the feeling has to be accentuated at the proper times for said manifestation because we're manifesting all the time.
yeah,
Like there's no just like, hey, we're sitting down and manifesting at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We're manifesting all the time. So what
because
I
we're
love about you're
creators.
talking,
Because
absolutely,
we're creators. I'm vibrating
absolutely,
right now. I'm like my
yeah,
brain is my frequency is high right now, and I feel the neurons firing in my head.
yeah.
It's instant. If you are at a high level frequency, you can get
Hmm.
there.
Hmm. And it's so much more fun too, especially when there's no agenda,
Yeah.
right? When you're naturally connecting with a person, and this is what we teach, obviously, within our group settings, especially on our Wednesday calls, because you have group coherence, group flow, which is on record specifically the most tantalizing experience for a human being, is to be in a group setting and all being as one. It's being a unified with the field itself, and that is what really sets this into motion is like if you find a desire point, right? You want an intent, right? And you have an experience that you prefer. Now it's really about getting in touch with that process to manifest. And then everything else in the way, that's what we get to work on, right? We get to scrub out the system. So now that manifestation just comes to your doorstep, right? I could not sit here and tell you coming back from the dead essentially and say that this stuff doesn't work, right? It's like the beauty of really that process is just being so clear in what you were talking about with your intent, being okay with things being challenging, have faith, surrender, letting go, and then allow that clarity to open up to your purpose. And then you're just gonna have a blast. And then you just get to connect with people like you, and really just have these opening up conversations about what's possible. And this is fundamentally how we change,
Mm.
right? This is how we get the word across that it can be a fun experience going through your trauma, right? It can be a fun experience rewriting who you think you are.
Hmm.
It can be a fun experience going through pain. And I know that sounds absolutely crazy, but we've mastered it. We've mastered the art of playfulness to go through your pain.
Yeah. You mentioned the law of you said a law of energy. What's one more?
So one of my favorites in all aspects is the law of polarity. The law of polarity just literally says every opposite has to be, abound. So it's like if you're going through a tough time, just know right around the corner is going to be an awesome time, right? So you don't have to worry. You're going to go through swings, right? It's the reason why east has west. It's the reason why up has down, right? It's the reason why hot has cold. Like you have contrast, right? And contrast has to harmonize. And what's beautiful about nature, nature doesn't recognize balance. It recognizes harmony. And that's what polarity does. It makes sure that everything is at an even keel so you don't have to lose your wits about yourself. Because the world out here is truly chaos. Like nature in her essence is chaos, right? It's part of the second law of thermodynamics, which is entropy,
Yeah.
right? So our whole process, in my humble opinion, and our purpose as beings is to lower that entropy, that chaos, to bring it into coherence. And you just do that through an art of love. And that art of love is however you practice, whatever your rituals are. And hopefully they're benevolent in nature, right? So you can teach those to other people. And that's all we do. We
Hmm.
figured out a formula, we figured out frameworks, we figured out family, right? And we just feed that to the people and just watch them grow. So yeah, that law of polarity is one of my favorites. So you can always know that even if you're going through a tough time or perceived tough time, right around the corner is going to be an amazing time. So you get something to look forward to. So you're never really in a tough time, right? You're never really in a tough time. You're just perceiving a challenge. And if you can change that problem that you're perceiving into a puzzle, your brain actually starts to change and shift into solution mode, which keeps you out of the problem in the first place.
Mm.
So it's really about understanding and mastering your mind, ultimately, at the end of the day.
Powerful stuff.
Right?
And if you can practice the law of detachment,
Oh,
there,
yes.
then
Amazing one. Yeah.
that makes it a lot easier because then you're not attached to the results or the outcome. You're present, right? I think that's what alignment is. That's what this work brings you. It brings you in the here and now. It
Yeah.
allows you to be present, and in the present moment, there you have clarity. And if you have
Yes.
clarity, then you can do what's the you can take the next best step, and then know that it's okay because it's for me specifically in my mind is everything's always working out for me, so it's all good whatever
Beautiful.
decision I decide to make. Right.
hmm And that's the beautiful that those are the templates in the programs when they're running on default is going to massively change the trajectory of any single person when they can have those running as a default. That's when you know you've won this game. You really truly won this game because you know the essential challenge and the essential damage that just worry comes from. And it's like, what is there to worry about if I know everything's working out for me? You know what I mean? So it's like it takes the initiation behind the intention to really like go into those depths. But once you're there, it's pure freedom. It is liberation. And that's why we call our process education to liberation. Like transformation gets boring after a while because you're constantly seeking for things. But when you're liberated, you can just be, like you said, you can be present and when you're present, you can actually love someone.
Mm.
That's when you can actually love someone or love a process or love a mission or love a vision, however you see fit. But yeah, I love exactly what you said because once you have that notion, everything's working out for me, regardless of what's happening, you're going to find that immediately in your feedback from the environment.
Mm. And then you can love what you do, and if you don't, what you do love will come your way because
True.
that's just has to happen. That's just
Yeah. It's the
nature.
nature of yeah, exactly. You said it perfectly. And that see, and we're synced up. That it's perfect when you start dialing in because you realize that once you have that and you set that, it has to fundamentally happen. That is the nature of things. That's the order of things. Like it has to fundamentally happen. That's what I love about studying natural law.
Yeah, yeah, I do love that. Um, the institute, like Holonomics is coming out. You're launching in 2025.
Yeah.
What can people expect if they're looking into this?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is our accountability group aspect. So for people who don't have whether the funds or the aspects to work with me or a time constraint to work with me one to one, they can jump into the group aspects and then they can constantly get what I do on a one to one basis in a group setting every other Wednesday. And then I also have other facilitators on our team that help kind of fill in those gaps as well. We do Monday classes as well, bi-weekly, and then we also do business, intro to business classes, and also money mindsets every other Friday. So for people coming into the institute, they have an accountability notion, so they know they have calls just to keep them moving towards their process and what we call an MTP, their massively transformative purpose or massively transformative process. Some people who don't know exactly who they are or who they want to go to, we take them through that massively transformative process, and then we get them through their purpose. What is the driving aspect? And that container, I don't really like to use that word, but the institute itself allows you to have structure so you know really what to show up for. And the team that I've assembled and that have been so blessed to show up in my life are some of the best teachers out there. So yeah, the Holonomic Institute just gives people an opportunity to work within our facilitation without having to work with me one to one.
Okay. Uh,
Yeah.
so now let's talk about your morning routine. How do you get up, dress up, and show up?
Yeah, my favorite thing is to get up and work. Yeah, so my favorite thing is just because you're in that theta stage right away. I just love to get up and do deep work as soon as I possibly can. And then right after that is immediately getting into a stretch routine and then also some workout and then jumping obviously into the day after that, after breakfast. So it's really, really super, super simple. As soon as I wake up, I like to get my deep work done. And that's usually like a 90-minute block, get some stretching in, get the body work in and then get on with the day and start making it happen.
Yeah. Because you're already primed, you're already ready, right? Your
Hmm.
mind is set. I'm sure you wake up with peace. You wake up happy. You just set your intention and go out throughout the day.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah, because once you get to that frequency, um, you become the routine, right? Like you don't
Truly.
need to do certain things, meditate, drink water, work out to get there. You wake up there, you become it. That's the beauty of that transformation. I know we don't want to use that because it just seems so heavy, but once you get to that
Sure.
level, to that frequency, the things that you needed to do, the habits you had in place, you no longer need them.
Hmm. Yeah, and it's also like it like I like to call it spot checking. Like when we teach our clients and students to go through the forever framework, it's like you can always spot check yourself throughout the day, right? If you have a little too much energy going through the system that is perceived to be anxiety, or you have a little too much allostatic load, which is just too much energy coming into your being,
Yeah.
like you can spot check yourself with some of the techniques just to make sure that you are getting back into a peaceful state. Because once you are consistently doing that over time, just as you know, the repetition makes the routine. And if you're talking about routine being who you are, then it's just making sure that you are just loving yourself. Like if you love yourself, like it's really not challenging to just have an amazing experience on this planet. Like it really is not challenging. You're going to start to see all the stuff that's happening in the world as something that doesn't bother you as it does most people. Like you're not reactive and triggered specifically by that. So yeah, even throughout the day, there's those micro routines that you get to bolster on top of your morning routine that just makes his whole life worth it.
Okay. Tell us, well, how do we connect with you? Where do we find you, Kyle?
Yeah, I mean, I work specifically with entrepreneurs, taking one-to-ones right now, especially for people who are really looking to get to that next, that income echelon. Those are like my go-tos, but you can find the information at www.highvibeholonomics.com. And you can also find me mainly on Facebook at Kyle Anthony Trautman. I'm not much on Instagram, kind of more centered towards Facebook. But you can also shoot me a message. I'm super, super active in the DMs when I'm not within facilitation or I'm not out on adventure because I love to just have fun.
Mhm.
But those are the easiest ways to come in. And then we're also doing scholarships just because we just launched the Institute. It's super, super fresh. So people who are coming in and want to be a part of that, we got scholarships available too. So those are the places where you can check me out.
Amazing. Kyle, what a stimulating conversation.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you. Of
you. Thank you for
course.
that. Thank you
Always.
for the confirmation and the reminder, and for doing the work that you do, because
Yeah.
it is changing lives. It is not just changing bloodlines going forward. It is healing lineage
Hmm.
beyond. I can see ancestors rejoicing and happy because, the work is done.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so thank you for what you do and thank you for sharing your presence with us today.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
It's my absolute pleasure. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. Please comment and tell us what was your favorite part, your favorite habit that you are going to try out for yourself today. Comment below. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. Until next time, I will see you at the top of your best morning routine ever. Stay blessed.